Good morning, everybody. It's been about 13 years or so that I've been blessed to become part of the Genovese family when I met my wife, Johanna. And during that time frame, for about 7 years or so before Eddie went to St. Mary's, every Saturday and Sunday, Eddie and Artie would come over to Marion's house, and we would have the privilege of being entertained by Eddie almost, like I said, almost every single weekend, whether it was at Mayor's house or they came to my house. So basically what Joey said with those beautiful sentiments, I'm going to elaborate a little bit more from what I experienced and we want to share with our family. So we're gathered here today to remember and celebrate the life of Eduardo Rolando. It was Roland, but he did not like that, Genovese. So I tried to figure out exactly one word to describe the kind of person that he was. What was the appropriate adjective? And I thought of him as a character. He will be remembered by the face. I think you all remember what the face was, right? Always. Whenever he would see me, see Tootie, see Johanna, it was always the face. And his facial gestures. And he will be remembered by his, I would characterize as saying, his Eddieisms, such as the one word is right, or I ain't nah, or I said no, or cut it out. Or the words that Eddie would misconstrue. And Tori took him one day to Wegmans, and he said, Ed, we're going to go shopping together to Wegmans. And he says, all right, I'll go. And he said, okay. So I said, Ed, how was your time at Wegmans? He goes, good, we had fun at Rikers. I said, Rikers? What's Rikers? Well, it's the time that Tori went and took Eddie to dinner at an Italian restaurant called Montesinos. We said, Ed, how was your dinner? He said, it was great. I said, where did you go? He goes, we went to Machinacci's. I said, Ed, went to a Japanese restaurant? He goes, no, it was an Italian restaurant. I said, okay. For all those of you who know that Eddie had this insatiable appetite and the uncanny ability to literally devour mass quantities of food. I'll tell you a couple of funny stories that occurred. This was about 3 or 4 times after I had met Eddie, and he came over to the house with Artie. It was a Sunday afternoon, and it had to be 95 degrees outside. It was the middle of July. It was boiling hot out there, and Eddie's sitting out there sunbathing on the chaise lounge, and he's wearing a cutoff of he had a sweatshirt cut off and a pair of shorts cut off and a heavy pair of socks. And we're over outside, Eddie, get in the house. It's boiling hot out there. And his response was, no, it's just right. So we proceed to go have some food. Now this is before Johanna had prepared. She had all the cheeses and all the Italian meats, on the table of Eddie, which had devoured mostly all of it. And then he was ready for dinner. So he would say to me, he didn't say my pronouncing my name properly, so he called me Gerald. And he went like this, Gerald, fire up, which meant go fire up the barbecue. I said, okay, Ed. So Eddie would sit there with me while I was putting the food on, and I had burgers, hot dogs, I had some ribeyes, and I just couldn't believe what I saw, that Eddie put away 2 hot dogs, 2 hamburgers, an entire ribeye, 2 ears of corn, macaroni salad, chicken salad, coleslaw, and then couldn't wait for dessert. And Artie would always say that when Eddie's stomach was full, he would turn into Boris Karloff. When he was full, he wanted to go, and that was it. Then there were the classic Eddie moments. It was Easter Sunday at our house, and we're sitting around the table, and Artie is leading us in prayer, and Artie is starting to say some things, and Eddie is sitting next to Artie, and he's trying to get over Artie to grab some food off the table, and Artie gingerly is trying to move Eddie's hand away, and Artie's saying, "Lord, thankful for our food," and Eddie says, "I ain't thankful for anything," and Eddie just wanted to get at the food. One of the hilarious moments of all was the Jewish New Year of Rosh Hashanah in my house, and my son Brandon, we had made a blessing over the wine, and my son Brandon said, "Happy, healthy New Year to everybody." And Eddie responds and says, "It ain't New Year's." And Brandon said, "Well, Ed, it is. It's the Jewish New Year." And Eddie said, "I said it's not the New Year." Took a couple minutes for Ed to calm down, and then Brandon said again, "But Ed, it really is nice to have a New Year celebration." And Mary Ann looks at Brandon and says, "You had to start him up again. I'm going to come over and grab you by the throat." Brandon, one year, did you fracture your foot or did something to your foot? He fractured his toe. He was in a cast, and we're eating Sunday dinner one time, and Eddie takes his foot and puts his foot on Brandon's cast and was looking at him like this. And he said, "Ed, what are you doing?" So Eddie continues to do it, and then he decides to pick up a fork, and he gets the fork, and he gingerly pokes into Brandon's leg. And then Brandon says, "Ed, it's a dirty fork." And he puts down the dirty fork, gets a clean fork, and then sticks him again. The time my other son Jared Jared lives in New York, and he's standing in front of it, and we're congregated in my family room, and Tori goes and says, "Hey Ed, Gary," he couldn't say Jared, he said, "Gary's over there." And he looks up and he says, "I know, I see him. He's blocking the TV. Tell him to get out of the way." The one time Tori told me about Eddie when he was at the center, and people will come in the morning and they would say, "Good morning, Mr. Genovese, and how are you today?" And when he would look at them and he would say, "Don't want to hear it from you, and that's for sure." And the last one, which is absolutely hilarious, Victoria mentioned to me something about it was Veterans Day. Was it at the center or was it?
At the center.
It was at the center. And there was a gentleman who I guess thought that Eddie was a veteran for somehow. And he says to Tori, he says, "Wow, I didn't know that your uncle was a veteran." And Eddie gives Tori the face. And he says, "Yeah, I was a veteran. I was in the Army. I was in Korea." On a serious note, what is the true word, how I would describe Eddie? Eddie was life. Why do I say this? For all those years, Artie and Eddie would spend their entire weekends at Mayor's home with Tori or having dinner at our home. Eddie could not wait to be around the family, knowing full well that he would be the center of attention and would be surrounded by love. But in retrospect, when you observe the situation, it was all of us that was eager with anticipation waiting for his arrival, knowing that the laughter and good times were imminent. All of us gathered today have had our own worries and stressors that we encounter, trials and tribulations that occur in this game of life. But when Eddie entered the room, those worries and stress factors that occur would just seem to dissipate and immediately go somewhere over the horizon. On those Saturdays and Sundays, we would act like kids, the laughter, the smiles, not knowing moment to moment what Eddie would say or what Eddie would do. Thus, it was all of us that needed Eddie as much as he needed us. Eddie was larger than life. He inspired us from the mere perspective that when we were all congregated together, the family and love we have and share for one another is what takes precedent. Eddie was ultimately responsible for being the core foundation of what really matters in life, which is love and family. I just want to say a word about Artie, who unfortunately is not here today, and I know that he's totally upset by that he's not able to be here. But Artie, you are the example you set as a brother is totally unprecedented. What you have done for Eddie for so many years, caring for him, making sure that he always had a roof over his head. Everything you have done in your life was dedicated to Eddie, seeing him day after day at the nursing home, even in those darkest days of COVID. No brother, and I mean no one, could have been so concerned, loyal, loving, and caring for anyone. And for that, we are extremely grateful. In closing, Eddie, you had such a profound impact on everyone who shared life with you. You'll be missed beyond words. So Ed, when the day comes when we will see you on the other side, make sure you are there waiting for us, greeting us with the face, and say, right, God rest us all.